another one on the hoist. And if you already follow us, you know we do a lot of mechanical, a lot of modifications, and one of the more sought after modification, the biggest request is, can you do a disc brake upgrade? And that's something we do a lot of, and some are easier than others. This one, however, is in the difficult bracket. The customer's requirements on a 1970 and pre-70 trucks, they're all the same, that he would like to keep his Selectro Hubs. And that makes it a little bit difficult because the Selectro Hubs go with the core spline CV and axle, and they're hooked to the 3.7 diffs. So we don't want to go changing the diffs, we don't want to change the axles because we're keeping the Selectro Hubs. So quite an intense job. It wasn't that easy. Richard and Mick had to do some thinking on this one, but they've pretty much sussed it out, and we're going to go and talk to Richard. He's going to give us a walkthrough. So if you're doing it at home or you want us to do it, it's all possible. Let's go see what Richard's up to.
Thanks, Paul. Yep, it certainly is a lot to do on these late 60s, early 70s models to get the 60 series disc brake conversion to work. So before we box up this driver's side, I better take you through a couple of the bits that we've done on it to get us to this point. So the parts we're using is 60 series swivel hub housing, 47 series kingpin arms. We were using the stub axle from the early hub. Now that has a much smaller diameter where the bearing on the bearing seat here, but it has much smaller holes, so it would not bolt into the 60 series swivel hub. So we had to drill all those out, and so that fits on there. We've got the original hub. Now we quickly realised that this is a terrain tamer, beautiful terrain tamer 60 series rotor we got here. Now this diameter was way too small to fit over the hub, so rather than taking all the material out the rotor, we thought we'd take a little bit out of each component. So we've had a bit taken out the centre of the rotor here, and we've also had a bit taken off the back of the hub, not a lot. And we've also flattened off this surface, so once it's all bolted together, we don't get any run out or feedback through the pedal. These are our lovely Selectro locking hubs, very period correct. We definitely want to keep those. That's a big requirement from the customer. So this is just half of what is going to go on here. So to get these bits to amalgamate together, to integrate together and work properly. So I'm very glad we've come up with a solution for this problem. I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that have been wondering how to get a disc brake conversion to work on your late 60s, early 70s models. So this is it, and this is how we're doing it. So I'll just take you across to the other side. That side's all put back together and it's looking beautiful. So come and have a look. Right, so we've got this side pretty much boxed up now, apart from the steering rods and all that. So just wanted to go through it. So you've got the Selectros on there. This is what the customer really wanted to keep, the period looking locking hub on the outside there, and that obviously core splines onto the CVs. You've got the big thick core spline drive shafts themselves into the diff. Now the diff is a 3.7 diff, that's front and rear. So there is an easier way to do this. Obviously just bung a late FJ45 the full diff underneath disc brakes, but then you'd have a 4.1 diff in the front and a 3.7 diff in the back, which is no good. We didn't want to touch the rear diff at all. So and he wanted the Selectro, so it was a pretty good, easy answer for us how to go forward with this. It just needed a bit of thinking outside the box to how we got there. Now all these hubs had brand new terrain tamer bearing kits through them. We've also got the calipers. Now these have been split in half, brand new pistons, new seal kits in them, brand new pads, terrain tamer pads in there. Now we're coming up, our biggest problem now is how to run the brake lines. So on the early ones, the brake lines come from the chassis rail up here, and they come straight down into the drum themselves. Now we're toying up with the idea of whether to come along with the brake lines along the diff or just use the original brake lines. I'm kind of thinking we're going to go with the original brake line route, using some custom brake lines. So I think that's going to be the cheapest, easiest and most productive way of sorting that out. So look, this is only half this job, right? I'm going to take you back upstairs now. We're going to look at what's involved with the firewall to get the booster and the master in there. There's a lot to do now. The old pedal box welded in there, that's all got to come out. A lot of bulkhead work to do, so let's go up there and I'll show you a little walkthrough of how we get around that. So this is the other half of putting disc brakes on the late 60s, early 70s Cruiser. We've got the upright support which we have on the later 70s, but we also have a much different embossed pattern in the firewall, which is going to make it a bit more tricky to move it over. So what we're going to have to do is go out into the yard and go picking and find a late model Cruiser cab that's totally destroyed, totally finished, full of rust, and we're going to cut a section out of the firewall and then remove this upright support, stitch the new section into the firewall, and then put our curved support in. And this is pretty in-depth, so we'll go and find, I'll get Paul and we'll go and find the most grotty FJ45 out in the yard we can find.
So this is a great example of what we wreck here down at Mr. Landcruiser. It is just rotten, full of rot. The chassis is gone.
Yep.
And normally, even when chassis are gone, we try and save cross members or the big eyes, because this is a 1984, so the big eyes on the suspension. But this one's totally gone, and this is common. This is the calibre of car we now wreck.
Oh, we wouldn't wreck anything nicer than this, man.
No,
you know, we love them too much.
We save them.
Yeah.
We don't really sell cabs or panels as such anymore, but there is a lot like this piece right here. There's a lot that's got a new home. We can save sections, we cut sections. So the whole dash, someone's doing an upgrade. I've sold the middle floor. Somebody needs that. And down below there's some still nice cuts in this one.
No, there is, definitely.
But what's more important and relevant to what we're doing right here is what you're up to, Richard, and what you need out of this wreck.
Yeah, so this is gold for us, right? So this tens of thousands of dollars to sort this cab out, but we've got our disc brake conversion, early 70s going on. We need the curved upright support from the firewall. Yep. And we also need, we're going to take a cut, because the firewall is the real early ones were that much different that it's not just a case of what we usually do, moving it over.
Yeah,
I need to cut a section out of this firewall and stitch the whole thing in that marries up to the pedal box that the modern pedal box. So yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah.
And why doesn't this one fit that one to some of the others? Is it the curves and the grooves?
It's the curves and the grooves on the early 70s ones that will not take the curve support.
Yep.
Well, and
so you're removing a whole section here
and stitching it in. Yeah, that's it. So it'd be cool. So I'm just going to mark it out with a paint pen now. Yep. Get the grinder out and get grinding. I might even get some PPE. You never know.
Well, let's tip it on its side.
Yep.
And we'll get it grinding.
So I've been cracking on with the disc brake conversion on the this early 1970s. We've removed the upright support. This is a right nightmare, especially underneath. You just have to bear with it, take your time. It does come out. So that one needs to be removed, chucked in the bin. The pedal box, the original pedal box, welded in at the top and at the bottom. So that's been unstitched, removed. No need for that anymore. And we've got our out of the green gremlin that came into the yard. We've got our curved support out, unstitched that, and that's ready to go in. But before we do that, I've cut a section out the green goblin, and this is the pattern we want for the booster and the pedal box to go inside the removable pedal box. So I've been cutting and grinding, scurfing back, getting it to fit in there nicely. I'm just about there, so I'm going to go and wheel the weld around and get tacking this thing in, I think. So making really good progress. Yeah, and we'll check in a little bit. We'll see how the progress is going. Mate, that is absolutely awesome. What a difference that has made. I'll tell you what, let's jump out, take a wheel off, and we'll see what we've been up to. Well, so really this is a recap of what we've done to this 1971 to get disc brakes using the 3.7 diffs, the core spline CVs, and the Selectro locking hubs. So what we've got here, we've got the 60 series swivel hub housing. HJ47 kingpin arms. We've got the 60 series calipers, obviously, 60 series rotors, which have had the center machined out. We've got the 1971 hubs that have had the back part of the hub with the mating surface with the rotor machined flat and a little bit taken off there, so they match up and they're going to run true. And then we've got slightly different wheel studs here that have gone in from the back. Now the 60 series ones didn't work, so we've had to change these out. I've got the part number here, so if anybody's interested, just let us know. And then we've got, really, this is the reason why we've gone through all this engineering. This is to maintain the Selectro, the period correct locking hubs. Now, they look great. Once the wheel's on, you'd never even know that this vehicle's got disc brakes, but you sure do when you come to jump on the brakes. It stops in a straight line. You don't get any surprises right or left, and the customer's going to be absolutely stoked with what's going on here. So let's have a look up on the firewall and what we've done with the booster and the master. Right, so we've got our 80 series booster, 80 series master. We've had to just, because this was a single line braking system on the old 1971, we've had to put a different T-piece in down the bottom, so we're running a dual line system now. We've got our HJ47 pigtail lines that run down to the chassis. We've got because we've used the HJ47 pedal box with the pedal box pattern, we've had to update the clutch master to a different pattern as well, the 2-bolt pattern. So as you can see, we've got the upright here, and this has replaced the straight upright that was in the way for the booster. So we've got our 16mm spacer in behind there. We've had to do a lot of work to the bulkhead. We actually cut the bulkhead out of an old scrapper HJ47 in the yard, and we've stitched that in place, and it's come up an absolute treat. We've given it a little coat of paint with the cadet blue. It's come up absolutely brilliant, and trust me, I've been up the road in this vehicle, and it stops how a modern vehicle stops. So it's just gonna, the best modification I reckon you could ever do on one of these old 1971s. So proof's going to be in the pudding. Can't wait till the customer arrives.